And I'm going to talk a little bit about Alligator Alcatraz and what's going on and the importance of Alligator Alcatraz and all this phony baloney stuff you're getting from the mainstream press and much more. So if you're new to the channel, this is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe. And if you're already sub, like the video. Okay. So some Obama fake judge, because these are, these judges are not judges. Okay? They are radical, communist, not even activist judges. They are revolutionary judges whose appointment to these federal courts by Obama and other Democrat presidents is not to be a judge who looks at the Constitution, looks at the laws, and makes decisions based on that. They have a mission. They've already judged America guilty, and they want to bring down America. And they're revolutionary figures, and that's a fact. I mean, people say activist judges. I think an activist judge, that's just too kind of a term to use for what's going on here. So this Obama judge has ordered the closure of Alligator Alcatraz here in Florida, but Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida they're already appealing that. They filed the appeal immediately after. It will be maintained. I'm not worried about it. But what's going on here? Okay. I was watching my local, because here I am in South Florida. My local news is in the my local broadcast news is in the broadcast area of Alligator Alcatraz, because I'm in South Florida, and I saw them out there in the middle of the Everglades in front of Alligator Alcatraz with all of these environmental wackadoodles. Now, first of all, if you've not seen my visit to Alligator Alcatraz, watch that video right here. It's on my channel. It's so freaking remote. How much environmental damage did these liberal activists do parking there? There's no parking lot. It's a 2-lane highway. In fact, when I drove there and made that video, I had a hard time finding it. I almost drove right by Alligator Alcatraz because it's this 2-lane highway in the middle of the swamp of nothingness in the Florida Everglades. And you go by it real quick if you blink. And I knew it was Alligator Alcatraz because I saw the Fox News cameraman out front. And I saw that. I was like, oh, that's it. And I got out, and there I was. And if you watch that video, I had to park on the swale of the road. So it looked dozens of people there just trampling on the pristine Florida Everglades while telling us they're protecting the environment. And I got news for you. This protecting of the environment story is complete bullshit. Okay? The Everglades... It's just so ridiculous. Okay? First off, this facility has been out there for, I don't know, forever and a day, and they, of course, they upgraded it a little bit recently. But they have some girl who dressed up in what looks like a dress that she bought at the tourist shop at the Miccosukee Indian Tribe Nation down the way. They had this. So I'm watching the local news coverage, and they've got this girl on who claims she's an Indian, a Miccosukee Indian, and she's wearing this dress, and she's, the environment, we can't let our sacred lands. The road that Alligator Alcatraz is on, okay, think about this. The road it's on, this is amazing to me, okay? It's on a road called Tamiami Trail. A lot of people think it's on Alligator Alley. It is not on Alligator Alley. Alligator Alley is north of that and quite a ways, and it's the replacement for the road that it's on. Alligator Alcatraz is on a road called Tamiami Trail. And Tamiami Trail, back in the days, was built... I talk about this in the video. I believe it was built in the 20s, And it was the road to get from Miami to Tampa or from Tampa to Miami. Tampa to Miami, Tammy-Amy, Tampa and Miami, the words combined. I learned that when I knew the road. I never thought about the name of the road too much. I learned about it when I made the video. I thought it was some Indian name. But the Miccosukee, oh, this is our native land. This is such bullshit, okay? Not only am I a Floridian, I went to college here in Florida at one of our state universities, and you guys have. I've mentioned that I've taken I have a degree in history and education and social studies education and such, and I took a complete course about the history of Florida and extensively studied the history of Florida. And the native Indians of Florida are extinct. None of the Indians that are in Florida today are native Florida Indians, okay? The native Florida Indians are extinct. That's number one. So the Seminoles, the Miccosukee, they are not native Florida Indians. So I don't care what kind of costume somebody puts on, who could be freaking Cuban for all I know. She looks Hispanic in a Indian dress. I don't know what she is. It's not Miccosukee native land. All right? So that's one thing, okay? So all the Indian, and I've got nothing wrong. I got no problem with the Miccosukee. I'm just talking about these people that are the native tribes, our ancestral lands. Bullshit. Okay? Same goes for the Seminoles. They're not native to Florida either. They were all transported here and whatnot. But I respect the Seminoles and the Miccosukee. But the road that Alligator Alcatraz is on, and you can look this up, okay? It's on Tammy-Amy Trail. Tammy-Amy Trail, okay? And Tammy-Amy Trail goes from the East Coast to the West Coast. It goes from the that area. It's a road called US 27, and it's way the hell out in the Everglades, pretty far from the beach. And in fact, Alligator Alcatraz and Tammy-Amy Trail are so far west inland from the ocean. All those famous plane crashes that have happened in the Florida Everglades, flying in and out of Miami, those plane crashes have all been east of where that road begins. That's how deep it is in the Everglades. And I'll tell you about the Miccosukees in a minute. But, okay, so you go way the hell out west to US 27, and you can see this on my video, okay, when you watch my Alligator Alcatraz video. When you're driving down 27, do you know how you find Tammy-Amy Trail? There's a Miccosukee Indian Nation casino right there on the corner. And it's a big-ass casino. Pretty tall. What's the environmental impact of the Miccosukee casino that they got there? I couldn't believe, So that when you see the Miccosukee Indian Casino with their multi-story hotel, that's where you know to turn west on Tammy-Amy Trail to get to Alligator Alcatraz. So I'm seeing this girl. She could be Cuban. She could be Colombian. She could be Puerto Rican. She's got an Indian dress on and claiming to be with the Miccosukee tribe of Florida. Maybe she is, but I don't know. But the Miccosukee Casino is not too far from Alligator Alcatraz. What's the environmental impact of that these Indians, so-called Indians, are whining about? And not only are the Miccosukee not native to Florida, okay, they were not even recognized as a tribe until the Nixon presidency. And I haven't thought about this since I was in college, so I have not brushed up on it, so I'm not going to get too much detail. But the Miccosukee, the Seminole Indian tribe of Florida, they are rich as rich gets, okay? I mean, they get each member of the tribe gets thousands of dollars a month just for being an Indian and a member of the Seminole Indian tribe. And they got big casinos. They've got a big casino here in South Florida, the Seminole Hard Rock. The Seminole tribe of Florida actually are the owners of the Hard Rock. And anyone that has Hard Rocks around the country, they pay the Seminole tribe a licensing fee for that. So, yeah. And they have the Seminoles' biggest money-making casino is not the Seminole Hard Rock Casino in South Florida. It's the one up in Tampa, which I've never been to, but they make most of their money from their Tampa casino. And, of course, they sell tax-free tobacco, to get even with the white man by giving him cancer. But the Seminoles are not native to Florida either, like the Miccosukee. So I'm watching this girl who claims to be a Miccosukee Indian wanting Alligator Alcatraz off her native lands, and I just felt I had to share with you. So the Seminoles got a pretty good deal in Florida, and if you're a Seminole who lives on the reservation land, and they have some nice gated communities, you don't even have to pay income tax. But they make so much money, and they got it coming in every month. They don't give a shit about that. So they live in very fancy places. Okay, so so back in the 60s, the Miccosukees, who are also not native to Florida, were very jealous of the Seminoles because the Seminoles were raking in the dough. Now they're making a lot more money now than they were then, but the Miccosukees were not a recognized tribe. They were not a recognized tribe. So the U.S. government would not recognize the Miccosukee as a tribe. So they did something. The Miccosukee Indians are very smart, okay? And the Miccosukees, so the U.S. government would not recognize them as a tribe. This is I don't remember exactly what year this is. Again, look it up online. I learned all about this in college, and like I said, I haven't thought about this in years, so this is just off the top of my head. So I'm not going to give you the years, but it was during the Nixon presidency. I don't remember if it was in his first or second term. But it was that was during the Cold War, right? The Cold War with Russia was going on, and things were pretty tough, and the Soviet Union was expanding, violating the Monroe Doctrine by being in Cuba. Right, so the Miccosukees couldn't get recognized by the U.S. government. So what they did is they put on a bunch of Indian clothes, got on an airplane, flew to Havana, and to meet with Castro. And the commie government of Cuba greeted the Miccosukee tribal leaders as this nation coming here and everything else. So because of the Cold War, long story short, the U.S. government then recognized them as a tribe who's not native to Florida. And the reason they wanted that recognition is because, like the Seminoles, they wanted to be able to sell cigarettes and make a lot of money and have casinos and back the Indian bingo and all that stuff, okay? So the whole thing with the Miccosukee was just to get a casino and smoke shops and all of that, which I get. Hey, listen, everybody wants to make a buck, that's okay. But that's the story of the Miccosukee, and I have no problem with the Miccosukee. They're good people. I love them, and the Seminoles and everything else, But I'm watching this girl interview. Well, this is the sacred Miccosukee tribal land in the swamp. Total BS, okay? Total BS on all of that. So and who even knows if she's an Indian? So now Alligator Alcatraz. So they got this girl who may or may not be an Indian. She may be Hispanic in Indian clothing. Who knows? Talking about the traditional land, and then they have the environmental nutcases who the Birkenstock wearing crowd. If you're new to my channel, my name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe if you are new to the channel, all right? Okay, so the second group they have out there, and there's another group after this I'm getting to, are the environmental nutcases. These are the Birkenstock-wearing crowd. They don't bathe. There's always one guy wearing a tie-dye who's white, right? He's a white guy in a tie-dye with dreads, and he's got dreads just because he doesn't get his hair cut or wash his hair. And, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So they're talking about the environmental impact of Alligator Alcatraz. Now, again, this facility has been out there forever, and it was just upgraded and cleaned. And actually, the current state of Alligator Alcatraz is probably better for the environment than what was there before with the rotting runways and stuff. The Everglades is a vast wilderness of nothingness, okay? It's there are gators out there. There are Florida bobcat out there. Florida panther out there, not bobcat. Florida panther, snakes and wildlife. No doubt about that. But basically, what it is, it's a swamp, and it's a deadly swamp. Not just because of the deadly animals that are out there. It's filled with a couple of things other than the deadly animals. That make it very difficult. One is most of the water out there is not too deep. It's in muck. Muck is like a muddy quicksand, which is the worst. If you've ever been in muck, it's like walking in a muddy glue. It's like quicksand. And then you have the sawgrass, which will cut you up. The high grass, it's called the sawgrass. In fact, the first road I get on to get to Alligator Alcatraz is called the Sawgrass Expressway in my video. You know, and the sawgrass is very high, and it'll cut you up like Dexter, okay? If any of you watch Dexter. So, I mean, it's just, and there's really, it's a unexplored wilderness, and it is a national park, protected federal lands. But I mentioned this briefly yesterday on the Gulf of America side of the Florida Everglades, which is just not too far. This is not too far from Alligator Alcatraz. In Collier County, there are oil wells in the Everglades that have been there since the 1920s, and those oil wells were put in place long before all this environmental BS started. And there are operational oil wells, not closer to Alligator Alcatraz than I am right now, probably. They've been there for 100 years, and there has not been a single accident out there, an oil spill or anything. And they've been out there since the 20s, and they're pumping oil every day. Right now, as I'm speaking, it's not raining, by the way. These are sprinklers that are on here behind me, pumping oil. Now, the Everglades is an ocean of oil. An ocean of oil. And really, we should be drilling for oil like nobody's business. And we wouldn't have to have any taxes in Florida. We could, every Floridian could get a big fat check like the Seminoles do every month or every year just from the oil revenue, because the Florida Everglades is like Saudi Arabia, okay? And it's really a sad fact that a lot of people don't know about. And it should be exploited because there's nothing out there. There is nothing out there. It is empty. And if you look at a map of Florida, it's most of the middle of the state. There's nothing out there. So these environmental whack jobs that take all the, and believe me, they did not take their Priuses and Teslas out there. It's too remote. They don't want to run out of charge. They'd be stuck out there. They took gasoline vehicles and parked on the pristine wilderness because there's no parking lot out there. So all these so-called Birkenstock-wearing, tie-dye, hippie wannabe environmental fake activists out there were trampling all over the pristine wilderness of the Everglades yesterday. And then you have this third bit, and these are the politicians I saw out there, Hispanic. They're locking up people without their due process. Here's the deal with Alligator Alcatraz and everything else. Last week, President Trump, I'm having some of my coffee. If you're new, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Subscribe if you're new, and if you're already subscribed, do me the favor of liking this video and sharing the video if you don't mind. So, last week, President Trump gave a direction to Secretary of State, Florida's own, Miami's own, Marco Rubio, to review all the over 55 million foreign visa holders in this country to find out if those visas are valid and if they're overstayed. So you got 55 million foreigners right there with this visa program. Biden brought in about 25 million illegals during the 4 years of his auto pen administration. So right there, we have about 80 million foreigners in this country, and there's more. So in America today, in the United States today, there very well could be 100 million foreigners in this country. And I know a lot of you say, so what? Well, you know what? A lot of them are here, and they think it's a freaking retirement plan. I played a clip on the show, on my morning show on Friday, of this girl, liberal, on this panel, who was talking about all the fake racial hate that white liberals have been brainwashed with on cable news. And she has a book out, which I can't remember the name of it. I got the free sample. I read it already, that part of it. I'm going to buy the book and read it. I'll tell you guys about it tomorrow, because I'll get the title of the book, and because I want to tell people about her book. And it's about the working poor that used to be the middle class in this country, and the middle class, and how they've been abandoned by the United States leadership, like Gavin Newsom and the Republican establishment that was running things before Trump. And it's a really sad thing about people that are husband and wife working DoorDash full time, day and night, and have no money left over after they pay the rent. And back in the 50s, in the 60s, and even in the 70s, but it started to change in the 70s, Dad worked, Mom stayed home and took care of the kids. Now, why has that changed? It's changed for a few reasons, but one of the big changes is things are so expensive in America today, it takes two incomes to squeak by. So why does it take two incomes? Don't blame Trump. Trump's bringing prices down. It's because they've taxed the shit out of us, okay? I'm sorry. Most people are in about a 50% tax bracket and don't even realize it, right? Get a printout of your cell phone bill. Look at all the taxes on that. You have federal, state, local, city taxes, the taxes on your gasoline. Do you have cable, right? And I know everybody will say, I cut the cord. If you got cable, take your cable bill out. Look at the taxes on that. Sales tax, property tax, tolls on government toll roads. The list goes on. You renew your auto tags, that's a tax. We're so overtaxed that and that's only the beginning. We're so overtaxed, it takes two incomes to support a family. It takes two incomes to support a family and squeak by these days. And part of the reason that we're overtaxed is we have 100 million foreigners in this country that are draining our system, and tens of millions of them are illegal. And that's the way it is. They fill up hospital rooms, emergency rooms. They got the Section 8 housing. They got their EBT. They got their Medicaid. They're in the jails. They're everything that goes along with it. And they're being supported by you and me. Look at how many shows I do, right? I do a radio show, I do a podcast, I've got my YouTube channel. Hey, I'd like to be able to do one show and maybe two, and maybe just one a day, but I got a family to support. And it's taxes. Every week, I've got to put money aside just to pay my taxes, because I'm a self-employed businessman. So I've got to pay my taxes, and I got to pay income taxes and payroll taxes. I got to pay my own payroll taxes. I've got an account that just goes into it every single week, money to go towards the taxes. Every quarter, I got to pay payroll taxes, my own payroll taxes, and all this, and these foreigners are coming here. They're retired. Now, I'm very lucky. I've got a great career. I've got a great job and profession. But how many people are doing rideshare for Uber and Lyft? All day, working 60 hours or plus a week. And I'm not going to tell you how many hours I put in a week working. My wife kept track and tells me, and I don't want to. It's a lot, and it's so many that I don't want to tell you because you wouldn't believe me, the liberals. But my wife keeps track and keeps an average of it, and it's so many. And it's from the time I do my show prep in the morning till I'm done working at night, and it's a lot. 82 hours. I work more than 82 hours a week. But, but talking about Uber and Lyft as an example, and I know it's expanded into DoorDash and Instacart and such, but ride sharing, what it was intended for was if you were a commuter, you could take some people to and from and pay for your gas to and from work. Someone in my family, they had a job where they lived in South Miami, down the street from Trump's Doral, and they had a job in Delray Beach, Florida. That's a long drive, and they did rideshare, and the only rideshare they did was to and from work. And the reason they did that, it covered their gas and their tolls to and from work with that great distance. They took somebody up there and somebody back every day. They would do just for ride sharing was designed not as a full-time job. Ride sharing was designed to be a carpooling thing, and it turned into a full-time job and a double-time job for a lot of people. And I know there's other things that fit into that as well, and it's because we're so overburdened with taxation. And President Trump wants to eliminate income tax. Governor DeSantis wants to eliminate property tax, and the president wants to fund the entire country on tariffs. So one of the ways to do that is to get rid of all the people that don't belong here that are sucking off of our system. Okay? So Alligator, Alcatraz, and all these other things, it's very important. We're not against immigrants. The First Lady is an immigrant, right? The First Lady is an immigrant, a legal immigrant. And a self-made millionairess, by the way. She was a millionairess when she met President Trump. She was worth about $3 million, and she's very smart and beautiful, but but that's the way it is. We're overburdened, and that's why that's why things are so important. So far as Alligator, Alcatraz, and such, the country is overloaded, overwhelmed. And here I am at 6:20 in the morning, live streaming. And how many of you are at work right now or up getting ready for work? Right? Well, while these illegals are sitting in some hotel up sleeping right now in New York City or Los Angeles. What the hell? Exactly. And you and I are paying for it. Think about that. Think about that. Exactly. So, the country's got to change. That we're the people of this country, the people of the United States, are working slaves to support the illegals that are here, to support these corrupt blue city police chiefs and mayors and governments that are allowing crime to skyrocket in their cities. And we're working dark to dark, not sun up to sundown, dark to dark to pay for all this crap? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's over. And that's what the second term of President Trump is all about. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe if you are new, and if you are already subscribed, thank you. Make sure you guys click the notification bell. Share my videos on all of your socials as well. But this fake judge, okay, this Obama federal judge that ordered the closure of Alligator, Alcatraz. The thing about federal judges, because we always hear when presidents are appointing federal judges that there's two types of judges. There's activist judges and there's the constitutionalist. And the difference is this: the Republican constitutionalist judges, they make decisions on the bench, whether it's a circuit federal bench or the Supreme Court of the United States, based on what the law says regardless of what their personal belief systems is. The liberals, they get these activist judges who make rulings from the bench based on how they think they should be. And these blue-haired lunatics that you see from rent-a-crowds, these tie-dye wearing idiots that you're seeing in the Everglades yesterday, that's where Democrats find their federal judges from. Those types of people. So these rulings that these Obama judges are making, trying to run the country from the federal bench, not the presidency of the United States, they are not real federal judges. They're hardcore anti-American revolutionary figures who want to bring down the United States and want the United States to fall as a nation. They're liberal jerks that have been brainwashed in the liberal universities to believe that all the problems in the world are because the United States is here, and if the United States didn't exist, the world would be a utopia. I don't think so. But that's what's going on. And this judge's ruling is not going to hold up. It's not going to hold up. We will prevail in this. And I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. You know, we take our MAGA cruise, which, by the way, you guys are all invited on the MAGA cruise. If you're conservative, no liberal stowaways allowed on the MAGA cruise. But, you know, we have to have passports. We can't go. We can't go. You know, people are struggling. On my other YouTube channel, I did a video yesterday, Saturday afternoon. I went to a Publix and made a YouTube video, and it was a ghost town. A ghost town. They only had 3 cash registers open in this massive brand new Publix store in the middle of the day on a Saturday. They had 2 cashiers working, and the 3rd register was being run by one of the managers. And I did some shopping, and I checked out, and one of the managers bagged my groceries. When I was in high school in the 80s, I worked at Publix. I was a stockman, a bag boy, a cashier. I did it all. And Saturdays was so freaking busy, we were slammed. Every register had a cashier on it that was open with a line. Bag boys lined up, one right after the other. Busy, busy, busy. It was a ghost town. It was a ghost town. So, you know, also one of the reasons people are struggling, there's not a lot of jobs in the country for low-skilled or inexperienced people, right? And yeah, that's right. And so what that means is there's fewer entry-level jobs for people that are teenagers, the unskilled, or people looking for part-time work and such. And so many of the jobs that would fit that category are filled by people that shouldn't even be here, that have overstayed their visa, that are in the country illegally, that have been brought up through, you know, Biden or Obama. And it's causing, there's so much poverty in this country that's being caused by Democrat policies. And President Trump is ending that. Ending it. I mean, you know, it's got to be done. It's got to be done. Even McDonald's, they do not have the same size staffs they used to have. Because they don't when's the last time you've been inside a McDonald's? You go up to the register to order, there's nobody there, right? You have to, excuse me, can you help me? You know, you have to ask for help. So the staff they have at a McDonald's today is probably about half of what it was back in the 90s or even the early 2000s. Why is that? They have those kiosks up that if you go inside, you order on a kiosk, right? Well, why do they have kiosks at McDonald's? Where if you go inside, you order on a kiosk. They don't have why do they have kiosks inside McDonald's? You know why? Democrats like Gavin Newsom that were trying to unionize fast food workers. So McDonald's said, screw that. We're just going to put up kiosks and have fewer employees. There you go. That's what they did because they raised the minimum wage too high for fast food workers, and they were trying to unionize them. That's why they have the kiosk. Or you order on the app. You go through the drive-thru at a McDonald's. What do they say? Will you be ordering on your mobile app today? Have you heard that? Will you be ordering on your mobile app today? Right. I went to the bank on Friday afternoon. I went inside the bank. They don't even have a drive-thru anymore. Right? Everything is done through the outdoor ATM. I went inside. You would have thought I was bothering them. right? And they didn't even there was no line. I walked right up. Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon's payday. Banks used to be filled up inside on Friday afternoons because it's payday. And I had to go into the bank to do something that I needed help with. And there were 2 tellers and no line. I walked right up. And I interrupted their conversation because they had no customers. They were just hanging out. And you used to go to a bank on Friday. Not only was it busy with lines to get to the tellers, they had a whole bunch of tellers, plus the drive-through tellers. They don't have that anymore. So there are so fewer jobs than there used to be. So we can't have all these people that don't even belong here, that are here illegally, taking the few jobs that we have for people. It's a big struggle. And DoorDash, and it just isn't getting it for people. There's a lot of jobs that used to be, somebody said McDonald's used to be able to have a great career as working in retail, and you just don't anymore. It's very difficult to have a good retail career now. Yes. Yeah, I was talking about Publix. I've got an uncle who's been a Publix manager since, I don't know, the 80s. And he was making 6 figures a year as a Publix manager in the 80s. And many Publix managers retire millionaires. They have so many stocks and profit sharing. Yeah, there's a lot of Publix millionaires, retired managers, not just store managers, lower level managers. Yeah, Walmart. You could have a great career as a. Oh yeah, he was making 6 figures. My uncle was making 6 figures a year as a Publix manager in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. He still is a Publix manager. I don't know what he makes now, but it's a lot more than he was making then. I promise you. You could make good money. Another one's truck driving. Remember, truck driving schools used to advertise like nobody's business. I remember once when I was in middle school, there was a door-to-door salesman trying to get people to go to truck driving school. I can remember in high school at the job fair, the truck driving schools being there, and television commercials nonstop with truck driving schools. Those stopped. Why? Because the illegals, like this guy that killed the 3 Floridians on the Florida Turnpike a couple years ago, the illegals have taken all the truck driver jobs. It's not the career that it used to be. Now we're purging the country of these illegal truck drivers, and maybe it'll come back, but they've driven wages down and taken so many of the jobs. Truck driving, that's a great career. I mean, this is the America that the Republican establishment and the Democrats are giving us, and President Trump is correcting it. So yeah, we need Alligator, Alcatraz for all the things I've been talking about here. If you're new to my channel, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe, guys, all right? Absolutely. You'll love my channel, I promise you. And when I'm in the studio, I'm always taking live calls. Welcome to the new subscribers. Yeah, when I'm in the studio, I'm always taking live calls. So if you're new, check out my other videos. You'll see what I'm about. I'm a talk radio host. I do a morning show, and I stream here on YouTube when I'm on the air in the mornings, and I also have my podcast that's here on this channel, and then I do videos like this as well from time to time, and vlogs and such. So, well, welcome to the new subscribers, and welcome to everyone who's subscribed in the past. Thanks for your support, guys. I appreciate that. But that's what's going on here, and I'm sorry for some of the salty language on the stream, but I'm tired of it. Aren't you guys? I'm tired of these liberal assholes thinking that you and me have to work from dark to dark 7 days a week to barely get by when they're bringing millions of people that come over here that view it's a retirement plan for them. My goodness. I made a big mistake on Friday. I opened up the bill from my auto insurance company. Holy crap! I don't usually things. There's certain things you got to pay for that are unavoidable, right? one of them's auto insurance. And a lot of those things I ignore because I don't like to deal with it. It's too depressing, and my wife handles all that. It was so much freaking money. And I'd asked my wife about it. I said, is there anything we can do to cut? She's like, I've already cut it back as far as I can. I mean, how much is your auto insurance? It's freaking expensive. What the hell? Do you think the illegals are paying for auto insurance? No. Why is auto insurance so expensive for me? You know why? Because I'm in South Florida, and we got a ton of illegals that are driving on the roads without insurance all over Florida, and I got to pay for their insurance like everybody else. So my insurance is high because I got to pay for all these uninsured people that don't care. So what? They get into a car accident, they get sued, they got nothing to sue for. Exactly. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? Pisses me off. Pisses me off. If I didn't have, if I did not have to pay this insane cost for auto insurance and taxes, I could take the weekend off from time to time. I work 7 days a week. The only way, you know how I keep track of the days of the week? I know which 2 days the garbage comes. Garbage comes twice a week. I always got to make sure I got the trash out, so I know what days those are. But I work 7 days a week. I'm not complaining. I know you guys do too, many of you. But every day is the same to me. But I know what 2 days I got to take out the garbage. And part of it is because I've got this, that should not be normal. It should not be normal. Okay? The reason that Americans are working 6 and 7 days a week is because the country is overloaded with illegals that we're paying for. These liberals like in Chicago and in California and Washington, D.C. are getting billions of dollars every year to fight crime that they're not fighting. They're stealing the money from. No. That's why. Illegals are filling up the highways without insurance. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. And I know I'm not alone. I know you guys are that way too. I mean, you may be watching me right now, and a lot of people watch me that are Door Dashers and Uber Eats drivers and such, because one of our sponsors is Friendly Tire in Margate, and a lot of people that are in that business, they go to Friendly Tire because they got good deals on. They eat through tires because they're on the road so much. And what happens if you are working? Because if you ever take an Uber or a Lyft, most of the drivers, they do Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and there's a few other ones. And sometimes they're doing 3-4 different things at once, depending on which one's busy at that time. What do they do when their car breaks down? Because the wear and tear that you put on your vehicle doing that type of work, it's are you really making money between the gas and the wear and tear on your vehicle? The Democrats have made us slaves. They've made us slaves. And it's enough. Enough. And that's why President Trump won all the battleground states. That's why the Democrats have lost tens of millions of registered voters, and the Republican Party is growing because people are tired of this shit. I'm sorry. They're just tired of it. Just tired of it. Like my wife, she said to me yesterday, Brian, just take the weekend off. I said, I look at that car insurance bill that we got to pay. Look at that auto insurance. I said, yeah, I could take the week off, but the weekend off. But what about that auto insurance bill? Because of all these uninsured motorists in Miami that we got to pay for. My wife has a very serious illness and is unable to work. Believe me, she'd like to. My wife is college educated, former teacher. And believe me, it pains my wife that she's unable to work. Drive without insurance? You can't. I got a new car. You're required to have insurance. And then what happens? I get into an accident. No. Drive without insurance. That's illegal. And I got to have maximum coverage. If you got a car that's financed, you got to have full coverage. And even if it's not financed, you're required by law to have minimal coverage. Nope, my wife, it cannot work. That's why she stopped doing the podcast with me. She can't even do that. She's on oxygen 24 hours a day. And, yeah. And my wife is pretty much homebound. She's been out of the house 2 times in like the last 6 months, and that was just for a short trip that she didn't even get out of the car for. You know? Other than doctor's visits. So I'm sorry, guys. Not that I'm looking for sympathy. I mean, that's the way it is, but, you know. But why should my wife should have to work so a bunch of people can sit back and retire who just jumped across the border? Exactly. My goodness. That's the world. I mean, that's the world that the Democrats have given us, right? And that's just the way it is. If you're new to my channel, make sure that you subscribe, all right? And click that notification bell and like the video if you don't mind as well, too. That'd be great. No victim, just pissed off. I mean, you know, you got to think about, you know, how much of your work week, like how many days a week do you work just to pay for other people's shit through your taxes or whatever, right? Think about it. Or things being so high to cover other people, like my auto insurance as an example. Also, get this. So I look, you know, John Bolton, who's in big trouble. They do the raid at John Bolton's house and office, deep state guy. And this morning I go on X and I see that Epstein and Trump are trending. Every time Pam Bondi, Kash Patel go after one of the coup conspirators against President Trump of the deep state, all of a sudden Epstein's trending on X. Exactly. Have you guys noticed that too? It's a whole deep state psyop. You know, between my, what did somebody say here? I've got income tax, I've got, you know, property tax, you pay your sales tax. You know, when my daughter was little, you know, she was about 5 or 6 years old, we had to get new windows for our house. We got, we had just bought this house. It was like 20 years ago, and we, you know, I've got storm windows on my house. I've got hurricane storm windows on my house. And I was at Lowe's, went to Lowe's to get them and have them installed, and had to buy some things. And I was explaining to my daughter then the tax was 6% sales tax at the time. It's a little higher now. And I was explaining to her when she was 5, 6 years old that every time you buy something, you have to pay the government to buy it. And I explained to her, I said, so if you buy something that costs $100, you've got to pay the government $6 to buy it. And she said, this is what my daughter said to me, like 6 years old. She says, it's like we're slaves to the government. I said, that's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Think about that. Every time you buy something, you've got to pay the government to buy it. What the hell is that about? Exactly. What kind of crap is that? Sales tax. My goodness. Exactly. Yeah, we are slaves to the government. Read some Ayn Rand, guys. Okay? Palestine, you mean East Palestine in Ohio? That was poisoned in that train wreck that Kamala and Biden and the Autopin people let be poisoned? Sure, let's talk about Palestine, Ohio, East Palestine, Ohio. Absolutely. The town that the Democrats didn't care about because they vote Republican. Thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate that. Jeez. Yeah. Oh, boy, I tell you. Exactly. Exactly. Welcome to everyone who's new to my channel. I saw a video online yesterday, and there's been a few of these videos about servers at Cracker Barrel that are in a panic now because it's not busy. It's usually busy, on the weekends at Cracker Barrel, and there's been a big drop-off in business over the weekend. And then I saw that somebody had said that woke CEO said that they don't want MAGA to go to Cracker Barrel. My goodness, that's their core customer base. What kind of business? Listen, I want everybody to watch me. You never have heard me say, I don't want liberals to watch me. Of course I want liberals to watch me. First off, I meet people, every personal appearance I have done for years, I'll meet at least one person, sometimes more than one person, who says, hey, Brian, I was a liberal, and I listened to you for however long, sometimes it's many years, and now I'm a conservative. Now I'm MAGA, right? I voted for Obama, I voted for Hillary, but I listened to you for so many, however long, and now I'm MAGA, So, what kind of business says I don't want at least, and it's really more, than half the country patronizing my business? That's insane. That's completely insane. But that's what that executive said at Disney. That's what this Cracker Barrel CEO is reported to have said. And who's suffering? Those hardworking people that work at Cracker Barrel. The CEO may get fired, but she probably has a golden parachute where they'll pay her a few $1 million and she can retire with her woke friends, and she can be a hero about how she got all those MAGA people out of the Cracker Barrels. The servers at Cracker Barrel are getting their hours cut back. See, with the Bud Light fiasco, there's a lot of other beers the company had that people didn't boycott. You go to a store, no one's buying Bud Light, but the same company owns, Coors and all the other ones, a bunch of beers. So, it hurt them, but it didn't hurt the employees that much because they have so many other beer products. Cracker Barrel just has Cracker Barrel, and their hours are getting cut back. All right. I feel bad for them. On Friday's show, there was somebody who watches me here on YouTube, just started working at Cracker Barrel recently, and they left me a comment on YouTube. If you go to my Friday show, you can see it. I put it up on the screen. I felt bad. He's worried, this guy. He's worried. Yeah, I don't blame him. His hours, and since he's new, he's at the bottom of the totem pole with seniority, so he'll be the first one who gets his hours cut. Because of this woke woman who did something stupid. Someone said, get a new job. So says the person without a job in the chat room. A lot of these Cracker Barrel's business model is basically a rest stop off of I-95. And at a lot of those exits, there's nothing there other than those restaurants you see. Right? They're two-horse towns, if there's even a town. So there aren't a lot of jobs where a lot of those Cracker Barrels are off of I-95. And when they have an opening, people line up to apply. So it's not that easy for somebody to go and get, listen, it's what President Trump says. Everything woke turns to, that's right, go woke, go broke. And that's what's happening. And, you go to the waiters and waitresses, and it's not just the waiters and waitresses who, it's the people that work in the back and everywhere else. They're going to get their hours cut, and the tips will be less. No tax on tips, but there's no tips coming in because people aren't going to Cracker Barrel because of this woke idiot. Newsom 2028 for what? To wreck America? What's one thing Governor Newsom has done that turned out well and helped people? Exactly. Jack. That's what Newsom's done. Jack. They're trying to make him a sex symbol on TikTok to get young girls to vote for him. They have some picture of him from like 35 years ago or something. Overpriced white food. Cracker Barrel is Southern food, which is American food, and a lot of it is black Southern food with the different dishes that they have there. Collard greens, okra, and things like that. Very, very good. Cracker Barrel is not white food, it's American food. Yeah, they've got very good pumpkin pies, too. I'm a pumpkin pie guy. I love pumpkin pies, and the pumpkin pies are spectacular at Cracker Barrel. Their apple pies are amazing. It's another thing wrecked by the left. That's what the liberals do. They wreck things. That's all they know how to do. They don't know how to build. They know how to suck us dry and wreck things. And then they find something else to suck dry and wreck. They're like the Borg. Yep. Country fried steak is good. The dumplings, oh man, the dumplings at Cracker Barrel are spectacular. Would you go to Cracker Barrel and have a meal today? Would you? No. After what they did, I don't think many people would. No. British Columbia, welcome, Canada. I love okra. Collard greens, okra. My favorite thing that I've ever had at Cracker Barrel is they've got chicken that is like marinated in buttermilk. Oh my goodness. It is so good. I think it's a chicken breast that comes with the buttermilk. Very, very good. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. This is where MAGA comes to talk. And this is why we need Trump for a third term in 2028. Just 2 terms are great, but we need another term just to get everything back on track just right. I'd support Trump running for the rest of his life every 4 years myself. Fascist? What's fascist about anything I've said? What is it? Give me an example of something I've said that fits the definition of fascist. And when you tell me, give us the definition of fascism and how it applies to the thing I said that you say is fascist, if you don't mind. Wouldn't you guys like to see that? Liberals have nothing but mindless, vacuous words and talking points that they don't even understand. Exactly. Well, listen, we got our country back. The majority of American voters are MAGA now. And President Trump, in this second and non-consecutive term, has saved our great country. That's exactly right. Well, I just finished my coffee. That's right. Make sure you subscribe if you are new to my channel. You will love my channel, I promise you. When I'm in the studio, which I'm at every morning during the week, and my podcast and everything, I'm in the studio, I take live calls. I have a toll-free number. You can call me live on the program. So all you people out there that agree or disagree, that are taking issue, you can always call me on the air and call me out. And if you want to support my channel, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link in the description of the video, or become a member of the channel. If you become a member here on YouTube, of course, you're supporting my content, and that's greatly appreciated. All right, guys, I want to take off. Thanks for watching. Again, subscribe if you're new. My name's Brian.